good morning, everybody, and welcome to another She Myth Eliminator story. I am super blessed this morning because I have got an amazing guest that is sharing her She Myth Eliminator. Probably got a number of stories that she could share. Actually, her and I have just had a really lovely chat before we've jumped on here live. I've got to learn a little bit about Jennifer. So Jennifer is a business owner. She's been a business owner for over 15 years in the health and wellness space. So I know that she's a super caring kind of girl because, you know, most people that are in that space, but stereotypical here, but it's true. Most people that are in that space are super caring people, just like she is. She's from Virginia in the US, and we were having a bit of a talk about all the sort of unrest that's going on over there at the moment. I was wishing her that, you know, things will come right and that everything will be okay for her in the next little while. But we've got her on the show this morning, and I wanted to give her an opportunity to share a number of stories, but also share with us how she's overcome them, because the things that she was telling me, I'm like, wow, you're a pretty amazing lady. So welcome to the show, Jennifer. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Tracy. I am very excited to be here, and it's wonderful to have read the book. And as I was mentioning before, I could see myself a lot in that book.
Yeah, well, you know, that's great, because that's the way we sort of, you know, we wanted to write it, that it would be, that we would hope that it would resonate with so many women. And as we move through this morning, I'm sure that you're going to, I know you were telling me some moments in the book where you were like, oh yeah, oh my God, I could see myself in the stories that were inside of the book. So let's kind of rewind the life of Jennifer for, you know, for some time, and let's sort of explore tell us a little bit about your upbringing. So where were you brought up? What was that like? And then tell us a little bit about, you know, sort of the journey that you've had to get to the point that you're at today.
Okay. Yes. Well, I grew up in Virginia with a brother and sister, my parents, and really my dad, very successful entrepreneur. And my mom was a school teacher, but she pretty much just stayed home with us kids. And my dad was not an easy man. He was very strong minded. He was very controlling. He was very financially minded. So we really grew up in a world ruled by money. And he was the one who was in charge of all of it. My mother really had no financial responsibilities. And unfortunately, uh, he didn't really respect her in that way at all. She was a school teacher, and he used to kind of put that down. And so we were ruled by everything financial. And one funny little story, and I think when I went to college, it was quite funny. So we weren't allowed to turn the heat on at night because that would cost money. And so if we got caught turning the heat on at night, which of course some nights we absolutely froze, then it would be taken out of our allowance toward the electric bill. So we learned a lot about money really early on. But the funny story was that I always wore socks to bed. And when I went to college, people were like, well, why do you wear socks to bed? And I'm like, what do you mean you don't? you know,
Yeah.
it was just one of those funny
Am I
things.
the only one?
Yeah, am I the only one? But having such a strong father, he really didn't. He wanted to teach us, and so there was a lot of lessons about finances, but there also wasn't a lot of letting us fly and fall on our faces. It was we were controlled and we were managed through all of it. So not being able to really use my voice to make my own choices along the way. I found myself rather subdued. But I did, I got to go away to college and started my career, and actually started out in the communications and sales arena. And what I found happening to me quite a bit, and this was back in the day when you had to wear the dark suit and, the little pinstripes, and as women, we had to wear dark suits and the little bow ties and kind of dress like men, except we had to wear skirts. And we were trying to fit a particular image there. But what kept happening to me was I was too feminine, or I was too soft spoken, or wasn't tough enough, wasn't assertive enough. And so I would be those would be the criticisms that would be coming at me, that I was, too nice, too soft. And I remember vividly one particular experience with this company that I worked for, and it was a rough and tumble kind of company, a hard sales. It was publishing sales, and I had never been in that kind of an environment. I'd been more, corporate telecommunication sales, and we went and met with another salesperson, and he just stood right there and like I wasn't even there, and said to the woman I was with, she's never going to make it, just because he didn't even know me. But it was, I think, the way I looked, or that I was soft spoken and I wasn't terribly aggressive or obnoxious. And I just remember being so upset internally, and and I had no response to that, because I was brought up with, you just kind of stayed quiet, and then I would think of a million things later that I really wish I had said to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really that upset me so much and really set me back quite a bit. Then you go inside and you're like, well, what is wrong with me? Or why am I not like them? Or why can't I be obnoxious and assertive and aggressive? So that, I remember that quite vividly, just that perception that I was just too nice or too soft.
Mm-hmm. And so then that particular incident, do you think that one incident had such an impact on you that it impacted you for a period of time? Like at that moment you went internally, but how long did you actually hang on to that for?
I think I hung on to it for a very long time, and became very sensitive to anyone that would make comments like there was something wrong with that. There was something wrong with being nice or kind or gentle. That I was not. I just wasn't tough enough. And it took me a long time to reconcile that and become okay with that. And the other piece, that when I was reading the book, was the different styles of leadership, and one being a sensitive person, or I know I'm very empathic, being in health and wellness, and I have a huge heart and very caring. And wow, it was like, oh, okay, that's who I am. That's who I've always been. Is a very kind, caring, compassionate, loving person who's gentle, and that's okay. And it took me a long time to become okay with that, and having to really do some internal work, soul searching, and I still run into it. Having a staff, and when an employee perhaps is not working in the way that I would like them to be, or what would be most productive for the office, I take a very gentle approach to that. And sometimes the other staff would come to me and say, you're too nice. You should be meaner. You should, say this or say that to that person. And I'm just like, wow, even my own, other employees are judging me for the way that I'm choosing to handle this. So sometimes that would sting.
And how have you handled that? So even though like now you're well aware of it, you know that these things, when you get that sort of feedback, it stings. So how do you then how do you handle that situation so that you can continue to move on and still feel very comfortable about the person that you are?
Right. Yes. Well, I've done over the last 5 or 6, 7 years. I really began another journey in my own personal and spiritual development. Really got into meditation and yoga. Became a meditation teacher. Really going inside, and through that process, I think you become much more in tune with who you really are, and it shuts out a lot of that external noise coming at you, and
Mhm.
allowing me to really find a center that, this is how I choose to be, and I'm choosing to be this way. This is not just a reaction. I prefer to work this way, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
So you've realized that through that work that this is actually authentically who you are. And
Yeah, that's a great word, the
yeah.
authenticity.
And so now, because you realize and you know that this is authentically me, I don't have to change. And I think there was a great use of words that you had there. I choose to be this. I choose to just be me. And if it means that, if I am a person who is just, I'm kind, I'm gentle, I'm, empathetic, that is truly who I am. And so then also finding what's interesting too, Jen, is I would love to know that transition that you had, because yes, you've been a business owner for like 15 years in the health and wellness space. How did that transition come about?
That's another really good story.
I thought
um,
there'd be a story there.
well, having grown up in the family that I grew up in, and then eventually getting married, when I got married and had my own children, I although I had always vowed I was never going to be my mother, I suddenly found myself my mother. Um, and I stopped working when I had the children, and I really abdicated all of my power, so much of my power, to my husband, and was married for quite some time. And at some point, it was like there was like this awakening that I didn't want to be in this situation. I didn't want to feel the way that I was feeling. I wanted to reclaim my power, and that involved me leaving the marriage. And it was my decision to leave, and it was really difficult. And that's really, I think, sometimes as the phoenix rises from the ashes, that that devastation that I went through uh, took me on this spiritual journey, and I said, I'm never going to lose my power like that again. I'm going to get it back, and it's mine. And it was that really was the journey. It was quite the journey, but it brought me to where I am right now. And all along the way, when I started back to work and developed my company, about 15 years ago, in the beginning, it was my company, but he handled all the finances, which is just like how I had been raised. And I was like, okay. And then when we got to this divorce, where it was suddenly my company with all, there was a lot of debt that had come along through that whole time. And it was suddenly my problem. It was completely my problem. It was like, now it's all yours. And I had to resurrect everything and really learn how to manage all of the finances, and rebuilt the company, and rebuilt it quite well. And through that wow, I did this. I brought it all back, and I made it even something better. And going through all of that, I really grew my confidence. It showed me who I really was, back to that authenticity.
Mhm. That is what a great story of, you having that moment of actually, do you know what, this, and realizing this isn't the life that I want. This isn't truly who I am. This is not speaking to my authenticity. And so actually taking control yourself and responsibility and actually doing something about it. And often when we have those moments of, okay, I'm realizing that this is happening, I'm acknowledging that this is happening. Now, actually, I'm going to take some action and do something about it. Because more often than not, we can go through life and we can acknowledge that things are actually happening, and then we just still sit in that pain and we don't do anything about it. And we just think, oh, well, this is just the way that it is. And I just have to suck it up, princess, and just get on with it. When in fact, you have the absolute control to be able to do something about it. And that there's nothing in that says to me meek and mild. That says super strong, and somebody who is very, very well balanced and centered and knows exactly what it is that they want. So congratulations to you. And clearly
Thank
you're
you.
doing some amazing things now with your business, and you're now helping many, many other people to also do the same thing, to keep themselves well and happy.
Yeah, and when I went through all of that, and honestly, it's not like it was an overnight decision to leave all of that. And I knew it was going to be rough, but I didn't know quite how rough it was going to be. But it was like I had an aha moment one day, and I just said, "Is this it? Is this the rest of my life? Is it?" And I thought, no, I'm way too young for this. I mean, I was in my early 50s, but I'm like, no, I've still got some good years. I really want life to be different. And yes, it took some time, and it took a lot of work. And I would say I had an unwavering commitment that I was going to get through it, and I was going to do whatever it took to reclaim my happiness. And I worked really hard at it. I yoga classes and meditation and anything and everything that I could possibly do to heal myself that I did. And a lot of forgiveness work in that, a lot of gratitude work in that. But it really, when I look at where I am now, I'm like, wow, I am not the same person. I am happy. I feel blessed. I feel, like you said, I feel strong and confident in myself that I could pretty much take on whatever I need to take on.
And the beautiful thing about that is you haven't changed who you are. You're still kind, you're still, gracious, you still love everybody. All of those things are still innately you and they haven't gone away. So even in all of this, when I think about the stories that you've told and this has been about understanding who you really are, acknowledging that, accepting that, embracing all of it and not allowing any of it to sort of be stifled or for you to have to make any workarounds for anybody else, but actually owning everything that you are. And you're happy for it. Isn't
Yeah.
that interesting that it's the person inside that you are is no different. It's the same person. It's just that you've embraced all of that and said, well, this is me, and
Yeah.
and I'm and I'm and I'm bringing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
love it. Well,
Yeah.
that is so awesome. So I want to know, Jen, if you were, and this is now that you've had all of this sort of experience and you're now like you're feeling really good about who you are, there are so many other women out there just like going through the same situation that you were, years ago, where you were feeling stifled, feeling like you couldn't be authentically you, feeling like you had to change and be a little more, be more mean or more aggressive to try and get ahead, when in fact that wasn't really who you were. And what piece of advice would you give them to help them move through that, maybe at a quicker pace than perhaps you were able to because you worked it all out, yourself along the way?
Yeah. I would really like to just say take that time to begin to know your inner self. And I think one of the best ways to do that is I think meditation is a hugely powerful practice. It doesn't always mean that we're sitting in complete silence waiting for this magical mystery thing to happen, but to learn how to be quiet. That could be in nature. That could just be having some moments of stillness, or listening to silence, or spending time with nature and animals. But what that does is it begins to let you be in tune with yourself, and learning who we really are without all the noise is one of the biggest gifts we can give to ourselves. And it doesn't mean we really ever escape our thoughts, because the thoughts never really quite go away, but just calming everything down a little bit, and be it meditation, be it prayer, be it just, some quiet time, take self-care, taking care of yourself. It's I just think that's so really important, just to slow down, breathe, and
Mhm.
listen to your heart. Your heart will tell you everything if we start listening to it. And we just have to quiet down to figure out, what's that heart telling us? Who for me it was like, well, I am nice. Why is there
Mhm.
anything wrong with that? And why am I feeling like there's something wrong with it? Because it's what people outside were telling me, not me inside. And I'm like, I'm nice and I'm okay with that. And I'm kind, and I'm listening to that heart space. So yeah, tuning into your heart.
That's a great piece of advice. And I think particularly in, the world right now where you've got so many, it's very noisy. You've got everything that's going on with the COVID space. You've got the television, you've got social media, you've got everything coming at you. Sometimes you just need to switch it all off and just shh,
Yeah,
just have that bit of quiet time sometimes just to settle so you can actually see, you can see 2 foot in front of you.
right. Because we're really being bombarded with so many messages, and it's creating so much fear and anxiety. And it's hard not to feel it. So yeah, getting off the stop listening to the news a little bit, listen to some nice music,
Mm-hmm.
that it's better, because we can get so addicted into that whole negative cycle that's being blasted at us 24/7.
Absolutely. We've got Karen here. I'm just seeing the chats come through, and she's saying, don't listen to the criticism of others. And, when you get to the point that, Jen's at, and she's very comfortable and confident about the woman that she is, then it doesn't matter what comes at you from an external point of view. It's almost as if you've put, a superhero cape on, or a shield around yourself to protect yourself from that negativity. And you know which pieces then to take on board. You have some level of discernment to say, okay, well, that's feedback for me, and I can take that on board, and I can actually do something about it, rather than taking the criticism on board and being really hurt by it, and then that having that negative effect
Yeah.
on oneself.
Yeah. Sometimes it could just be kind of like, well, thank you for pointing that out to me, or thank you for sharing that with me. And I'll think on that. Then
Yeah,
decide
yeah.
if it serves you or not.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to look at it. So I want to say thank you so much, Jen, for sharing those stories. They're amazing. And I want to know, I know that you've had an opportunity to read the book, because you were mentioning some of the things to me before we jumped on. But is there a particular part of the book that you like, that is your favorite, or that has inspired you the most?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was so glad to read those different leadership styles and to kind of find myself in that sensitive realm. So that was really interesting for me, just because I had never thought about it that way. But I also think just the tools that you've laid out for developing yourself are really powerful, and I think anyone could just begin to step through those. You'll grow right into yourself. It's really worth going through it.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, if you haven't got a copy of the book already, you guys now know where you can go and get it. Right here on the screen beneath me, there are two websites. So if you're in the US, you can go to Amazon.com and just type in The She Myth, and you'll find the book there. It just looks just like the one that is on the screen right underneath me. And if you're in Australia or New Zealand, go to Amazon.com, and you should be able to purchase the book there. Both the paperback, hardcover, and the ebook versions are all available for your enjoyment. So head on over to both of those, or one of those, and get yourself a copy of the book today. And if you would love to be on the show and you would love to share your She Myth Eliminator story, then reach out to myself, and I'll make sure that I put you in touch with our production manager, and she will get you scheduled. So thank you so much, Jen, for being here. I'm so pleased that I had an opportunity to chat with you and hear your stories. What a wonderful life experience you have, and I'm wishing you all the best with your business, and you see the life that you are now creating exactly the way that you want it for your
Yes.
future. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Brisbane time, with another amazing She Myth Eliminator story from another inspirational, motivational, and kick butt woman. So we'll see you then. Bye for now.